All right, welcome back. Good day, everybody. I want to talk about something today that I find common with people trying to move forward from the aftermath of dealing with a narcissist, right? This is where a lot of people, a lot of you become stuck and stagnated to where the healing process just isn't, it just feels like it's like you're not moving forward, right? You're not getting to that point where you hear some say they've gotten to where they have a careless attitude about the whole situation and they're completely fine with it, right? This is what I'm going to get into today is going to really go over a good portion of that and why people remain stuck in that. And in order to get out of these things, you have to understand this. You went through years of programming or months of programming, and the programming and with this toxic at least exchange with a narcissist is so deeply impactful, and it's deeply embedded into a lot of people's subconscious to where listening is one thing, but you actually have to do things and apply certain methods to undoing the programming, right? There's things that you have to do to undo these programmings that you've been subjected to by these narcissistic toxic situations, right? You have to recondition your mind. You have exercises and things to do, to practice on, to unravel, to undo what was done, right? And this is one of the main things, at least topics that I see that holds people up, which I strongly recommend some sort of consultation on that to help the process begin, to get it started, to get it churning, so that you're not stagnated and spinning your wheels, not feeling like you're moving anywhere. All right. At the end of this, if you feel as though you can go forward, shoot me an email. I'll get you information on how to go about doing that and set up some kind of, at least some type of structured plan that's going to be exclusive to you to get you moving in that direction. One of the things that impact and make it difficult for people to move through this is they don't understand why the attachment feels so strong with the narcissist, right? I know a lot of you went through things in a relationship, and you've cut people off before too that you didn't feel like, I don't want to deal with you no more. I'm done, right? And it may have affected you. You felt it, and it didn't feel good, but you got over it. It wasn't like this. This one feels different. This one feels like it's something just ripping out your heart with this one. This one leaves so much more confusion. This one has you constantly thinking and ruminating. Well, it's different with this. It's not like other breakups you had in the past. So you have to learn about how the emotional entanglements and anchors that narcissists have instilled in you, because they were basically using powerful tactics that create extreme bonds, right, to leverage over your free will. So a part of your will is tied up in what the narcissist had exploited and found out about you. It's still tied up with them. You have to understand that part of your will, and the will is the ability to do as you want to be able to move as you want to think as you want to, gets impacted by this. We know about trauma bonding, right? where these narcissistic toxic relationships involve cycles of idealization, then devaluation, and then those things, back to programming, create an intense sort of addictive pattern, right? Because some of you, even though the narcissist is gone, and you can be honest with yourself, you still think like, dang, I kind of miss, even though they did mess up, I miss when the makeup part would come into play. Because you got hooked on how the narcissist would make up. A lot of narcissists are very skilled at really coming in with high energy, intense makeup sessions. And it doesn't have to be nothing intimate necessarily, but it's like the fake pouring out of emotion and appreciation and gratitude, right? This starts to program you to kind of almost expecting or wanting them, like you don't want them to do something bad to throw you off or get you out of your mood or whatnot. But in a sense, you're looking for that, the opposite of what they triggered that made you feel bad, right? And that dynamic creates a craving to wanting that type of interaction to play out. So they do something wrong and then they mess up and then they come in, they're begging, pleading, they're promising to do better. They're doing a lot of makeup theatrics, which a lot of you get hooked on. It's not something weak. It's a very powerful, effective method, right? And so they've programmed your brain to become wired to crave the highs of the interaction, the relationship, the transaction, etc. So your brain has become wired to crave that type of interaction, the highs of it. Normal people don't do things in that way just to have to come make up and suck up and kiss up to you, right? This is a deliberate, very powerful method to get someone hooked on you, stuck on you. And it doesn't necessarily have to be sexual, right? It's the constant ins and out of the back and forth with this type of behavior that creates a powerful addictive, at least addictive mindset. So it makes the absence of them and the absence of that exchange, it makes it feel unbearable when it's not happening. This is the difference. This is a big part of the difference that comes into play, is that normal people, again, you cut people off before because they never use these tactics on you. They didn't use these powerful tactics to get you hooked. So then you fall into a position of unmet emotional needs. And this is where narcissists, a lot of times, they often mirror your desires and make you feel deeply understood, creating that false illusion of a connection. So because you think you have a connection that's worthwhile holding on, and you're getting these highs and these lows, that's really throwing your whole perception off and the way you're supposed to operate off. It's throwing that completely off. You begin to adapt to the toxicity. You've become an addict. Yeah, that's right. You've become an addict. Not a drug addict, but even with drugs, a lot of times it's not the drug, It's what it causes inside the body internally. It's the chemicals that it causes the body to release unnaturally, right? Excessively. That once it comes down, the person had got to a feeling, at least, that they normally wouldn't have gotten in a normal state of operation. So when you deal with a narcissist and they come in and they give you these highs that no one else was able to tap into to make you feel a certain way, boom, they've just introduced you to a new drug, an emotional drug, that now the narcissist has become your high. A lot of you don't look at it that way, but that's essentially what it is. Everyone else, I mean, that's normal. You can, everybody else was like taking a Tylenol or something. The narcissist came around, they were 10 times more than that Tylenol. Right? They made you be able to feel 10 times better in some sort of way, whatever they pinpointed in you as a vulnerability to be able to manipulate, structure this character that would make you feel good, make you feel acknowledged, appreciated, all of this stuff with a high level of intensity. That was so powerful and overwhelming that it changed your psychological makeup. All right? And so the loss of that feels like you're losing the fulfillment of those emotional needs. So it feels like you're going to lose. You'll never be able to get that back again. This is why a lot of you hold on. It's not because necessarily you love the narcissist. A lot of you, you know you don't like them even while you're in it. So if you think about it, you're not really missing the narcissist. You're missing the way that they make you feel in certain instances when they do bring those highs to you. Because we know there's bad times, right? We know about the bad times. But the times that they make you feel good, they really make you feel good. All right? If we're just being honest with ourselves. Yeah, we could say, oh, you felt sorry for him and all that. And that's part of it too. But whatever they were able to tap into to make you feel good about yourself, which connected that feeling good about yourself to them, creates that bond and that need to unconsciously want them around. Feel bad about them moving on from you. Right? Get nervous and have all types of anxiety about not being with them again. And it's not about being with them. It's about the feeling they were able to make you feel while you were with them. That is what you're afraid of really losing. So we know about that power of idealization. And during that relationship, you likely held on to the hope that the narcissist's potential would really take a turn and start to move in that direction where you could have this type of thing with this person in a good way without all of the bad. And so after the breakup, a lot of you missed the idea of who they were rather than the reality of what they actually are. Right? You miss the things that they were, because let's face it, every single moment from start to finish couldn't have been all bad with the narcissist. They would have never gotten that far with you. You can see it bad now because the things that's happened. And typically once it's all over, once the person it's finally over, is where you start coming to seek this type of information. And sometimes when it's almost over and you're in that process of kind of wanting to understand the behavior more, you start seeking. But at then, a lot of people still aren't able to dismiss the narcissist fully at that point until it's finally over. So that's where the ruminating, because these psychological traps come in, which you have to overcome these too in order to fully move on. You'll be in limbo for years unless you deal with this properly. Because those ruminating thoughts will constantly come up again. Constantly come up again. You'll constantly be replaying the scenarios in your mind, imagining a different outcome, which will keep you stuck. The other component to that is that it makes it difficult to form other connections with anybody else, right? Because you go through the comparison effect, which if you haven't undone these things, these anchors that a narcissist has implanted into your mind, you won't be able to make another connection that'll feel right to you, because they've set a standard of a high that is still attached to them, which you're not gonna just readily get from a normal person just being normal to you. You're not gonna get that. And that's a big part too. Because if you're still hooked to the highs of what you went through with a narcissist, it still plays out. And a lot of people, they'll say, oh, I'm not that. But a lot of this stuff, because I've run across women a lot of time, when you go in a dating scene again, at least when I was fresh out and had a healthy mindset, I was able to tell right off people who say that they were healed. I could still see they were not healed. And that's only because once you're fully healed, right, you can see it. But people will think that they're healed and they're not. But you can tell. You can just tell by how they operate, all of these things. So those highs, because they've created a new appetite. You have a new appetite for something. And it's the appetite that you've picked up while you were with the narcissist and the things that was going on with the narcissist. Now, you still crave or internally wish to recreate that. And I'm not talking about the full experience. I'm talking about the highs of the narcissistic experience is what you're going to be subconsciously looking to recreate. Right? And so a big part of at least, getting to that understanding, because if you went through that situation, you have to undo yourself psychologically, and your emotions have to shift from what you were programmed to like. You got programmed to like a lot of toxic interactions. But you have to be able to accept that the relationship, transaction, whatever, was just a transaction with a narcissist. And it was based on control and not respect or love. You have to acknowledge, you got to acknowledge the narcissist's role and their behavior. and creating that emotional chaos. You got to reframe the loss. And instead of seeing the narcissist as a loss, view that end of that situation as freedom from manipulation, freedom from your drug supplier. Because yes, indeed, the narcissist had become like a drug, an emotional drug to you. And that means you got to find different ways to fill that void with new experiences. I don't mean going out and dating someone else. I just mean living life, new experiences. Engage in activities bring you joy and fulfillment, right? Start finding you gotta, if you have a hobby or something like that, but you have to get started somewhere. But it really starts when you have the methods of practicing and putting to work strategic methods that will start to undo the addiction that was created by the narcissist, which feels like that soul tie and that part of you that still feels like, dang, you can't get over it. Right? This is going to allow you to rediscover your identity, which for most of you, especially if it was long term, you lost it. You lost it with the narcissist. You got to reflect on who you were before the narcissist. And being yourself is not a bad thing. Being able to recognize what is unhealthy is the thing that you're striving for. Because you can be yourself and be the same way as long as you're able to recognize when you need to put boundaries up, like really strong boundaries in front of certain types of individuals. Because beforehand you were open, your boundaries weren't intact, and that's how they got in. You have to reconnect with your passions and your aspirations that have been overshadowed by this whole narcissistic situation. You got to start practicing self-compassion. All right? Understand that what's missing, well, you got to understand at least missing them doesn't mean that you're weak. It's a natural part of healing. Treat yourself with kindness. A lot of people tend to beat themselves up for going through it. And they hold on. They hold on emotionally. I had a lot of clients that they say they're good, but you can tell they're not really good. And the more you work with them, you start discovering things that they're still holding on to that you got to get them to release. Because that's the only way to move really freely away from the narcissist and gaining yourself back fully. The best version of yourself back fully. Because that's what we want. The best version of yourself. Another thing, that fear of going on in life without the narcissist, you have to start visualizing a life without the narcissist. You have to not be afraid of that, of what that looks like. Stop idolizing the good times that you had with them, or that the things that was promised from them. All right. This will be helpful to counteract the tendencies to remember only the good moments, because that's strong too. If you notice, when you think about the bad moments, it's kind of vague. It was bad, it hurt, but there's still that leaning to the other side. It's still back and forth, back and forth. So in the beginning, for a lot of you, you don't want to see them as being deliberate to you. You still want to see that, oh, maybe some of the things they did, they really did care, but it was other things. No, it's not. A big one, y'all. You got to break that fantasy. Some of you still have those crumbles of hope. You have to recognize that reconnecting will likely lead to the same patterns of abuse. Let it go. Remind yourself why the relationship or situation ended on a regular. Another big one too that holds people up, which you can work with. It's workable to work with and to overcome. But that closure, you have to get to a point where you can accept that closure may never come. And narcissists rarely provide closure because it doesn't serve their need for control. So why would they give it to you? You got to learn how and find the ways to create your own closure. Right? It's not easy, but it's a process and a practice of letting go of unanswered questions. Because a lot of you are left. That's just how it is. You're going to be left with a lot of unanswered questions that do not make sense to you. And some people need closure so that they can move on. But you have to be willing to be prepared to not get closure. But to close out on this, I don't want to keep going too long into it. All of you, you have the strength to overcome this. This whole chapter and emerge a stronger person. You're not defined by this interaction that you had with a narcissist. But it's going to take your resilience, right? And being consistent and steady and rebuilding your life. It can be done, though. I'm not going to say it's easy, because it's not. It's consistent work. But it feels so much better when you fully return to a state of healthiness. Anyway, that's all I have to say for this message. If you found it useful, if it resonated with you, please consider to subscribe and like. If you want to go about your own way of getting some personal coaching and help on your specific area of need, just shoot me an email. It's in the description box. I'll get back to you on what information and everything you need to go about doing that. Till next time, have a good one. Talk soon.